Hello, Patriots, and welcome again to Patriot Point. It's Friday morning, which means I have a new video for you. If you haven't already, I hope you'll hit that little subscribe button that's on the bottom right of the view screen right now, and that would really help the channel out. Well, we're going to be focusing today on what we do each week, really, which is Christ, the Constitution, and common sense. Three things that are in far too short a supply in America and even in Kentucky today, and boy, do we need more of that. Well, let's start off, first of all, on how COVID seems to be going away. Yes, you heard me correct. We see that Biden got inaugurated on the 20th. And then what happened the very next day on January the 21st? CNN, the Communist News Network, they've had a little COVID number tracker on their television for now nearly a year. The day after Biden was inaugurated, that was taken off and it just quietly disappeared. So I guess we're getting over this thing. You'll notice on 2 days after Biden was inaugurated, on January the 22nd, California Governor Newsom, he said, you know what? I think I'm going to loosen a lot of these restrictions we got right now because I think things are going to be getting better. Magically getting better 2 days after Biden gets inaugurated. And then on January the 23rd, the World Health Organization came out and said, you know what? We think the COVID test is giving us a lot of false positives. So we're going to change the test so it won't give us nearly as many positives. And we're not going to say you have to take the test multiple times. And that's going to make COVID numbers plummet. And all of these things within 3 days of Biden being inaugurated. So I guess COVID's starting to get over something really kind of interesting. I really think the only way that we're going to really do away with COVID is if somebody lets it slip that COVID's got dirt on the Clintons. And then, that's the way that'll make it go away. Well, let's think about Biden being in office now in the White House. Do you know that in his first 3 days of being inaugurated as president, that he issued 19 executive orders, more than any other president, 19 of them in the first 3 days. You know how many President Trump did in his first 3 days in office? 1. Biden did 19. Now that we're a week into it, do you realize he's done, on my last count, 37 executive orders, just ruling by the pen, ruling by decree. That is not the way that our republic was supposed to be set up. Now, one of the first things that he did the first day was he said, I'm going to close that pipeline in Pennsylvania, and immediately he killed 11,000 jobs. That pipeline, keep this in mind, this is really interesting, and I bet the mainstream media isn't telling you about this. That pipeline was shipping oil to the rest of the country at about $10 per barrel. Well, since that got cut down, the exact same oil is now having to be shipped by train, and train lines run by Warren Buffett, who donated millions of dollars to the Biden campaign, and his trains are now shipping that same oil, and it's costing about $30 per barrel. So Biden campaign contributors are making mad money on this, but the price of oil has gone up, and that means that the people are going to have to start paying more. I just thought I'd throw that all in there for you for free, and I hope that you can just chew on that for a little while. Well, let's talk about some other issues going on there in Washington, D.C. First of all, the impeachment of Donald Trump. I'm proud of Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, who seems to be the only one of our congressional delegation that's really pushing back against this thing hard and calling out this impeachment for what it is. Just complete political theater, hypocrisy on the left side, and I'm glad that he's pushing back against that. I wish we had some more of our congressional delegation that were strong on that as he has been. And so you have to wonder, why impeach a person who is no longer in office, can't do anything, and who supposedly lost the election? Unless, of course, he didn't actually lose the election, and they're just trying to silence him. Well, just something else I thought I'd throw in there for you for free. Well, speaking of impeachment, let's go down to the local level. Here in Kentucky, the impeachment of Governor Andy Beshear is proceeding. Papers have been filed. There have been petitions for this. The House of Representatives in Kentucky has formed a committee to look into impeachment. That committee met this past Wednesday, the executive committee has hired a lawyer to look into this, and we have those who are pushing for impeachment. Of course, they are also going to have to lawyer up. What we're seeing is a pushback from some of those in the governor and others who don't want this, and they're just going to try to make it too expensive to happen. So we're going to need to lawyer up. If you would like to participate in helping to hire the lawyer team to press for Governor Beshear's impeachment, and you may want to do this because he's violated the law. Remember, he broke the law when he broke the freedom of religion by banning church services. He broke the law by banning free speech when he said you can't protest against him. He broke the law when he said you can't have more than 8 people in your own house, violating the freedom of assembly, as well as many other things. If you would like to help fund the lawyer team that's going to push for impeachment, I'm putting a link for the GoFundMe page for that. It's being run by another group, and I'll put the link to that in the description of this video. If you'd like to give $1, $100, or whatever would be good for your account, and I hope that you'll decide to do a little bit with that. So papers have been filed, and we'll keep you an update on what's going on with that. And the key to the impeachment of Governor Beshear is because here we have a governor such as Governor Newsom and others who have greatly violated the constitutional rights of the people. And what is being done to these people because of that? The only thing that the legislature seems to be doing is saying, well, we're going to prevent you from doing that again. But there's no justice on how he's violated the law already. And until one of these jokers actually faces some consequences, they're all going to be emboldened to just keep doing it, because the worst thing that's going to happen to them is they can't do it the exact same way a second time. No justice for those who've had their lives devastated by their constitutional rights being violated. Well, let's talk about some of the things going on up there in Frankfurt right now with this week's legislative roundup. One of the things going on in the legislature right now deals with the court system in Kentucky. They've been trying to bring casinos into the state for years, but the courts have recently issued some rulings saying, listen, casinos and these slot machines are illegal according to Kentucky law. So what has happened is now the legislature up there in Frankfurt is being pressured to just change the law so that they can bring in casinos. Let me tell you this, you are never going to gamble your way to prosperity. You're never going to go up to some economic advisor and hear him tell you this. What you need to do is take all your money, go to Vegas and bet it all on the slot machines, and that's going to earn you a whole lot of money. You never hear anything like that, do you? Why? Because you're never going to gamble your way to prosperity. Now, I want everybody to keep this in mind. The only way that the state would earn any money with these casinos is if the people lose money. If the people win, then the state and the casino isn't making any profit. So you have the interest of the people going one way and the interest of the state going the opposite direction. That would be very bad government. That would be bad for Kentucky. The only way casinos win is when the people lose. And these are people, they could have used that money to help pay bills, maybe to send their kids to college. They could have used that at a local restaurant. And Lord knows our restaurant industry is greatly hurting nowadays. They could spend that money on local businesses, and that would sustain all kinds of industries and jobs across the state, and will actually create far more taxable revenue through that money cycling around the state than to have it go to the casino, which is owned by people out of state, and have that money pipelined out of state as quick as they can do it. So I hope that you will contact your legislator and encourage them to say no to any expansion of gambling. If you'd like to contact your legislator on this issue, the impeachment issue, or anything else really, you can call the Capitol during weekdays, normal business hours, at 1-800-372-7181. They'll be happy to take your message. If you don't know who your legislator is, the operator can tell you just based on your address. And I hope you'll care enough about our republic to be active and to be involved. Let your voice be heard. Well, let's talk about another bill they've got up there right now, and this is Senate Bill number 89, SB 89. And this is an okay bill. I think it's good. I wish it would actually go farther than what it goes. But what it does, I think, is good. Senate Bill 89 would say that governors no longer have the authority to pardon or to commute sentences 30 days before an election and after election until the next term starts. So you won't get somebody who's lost an election and then they're going to pardon a whole bunch of criminals and really have no repercussions for that. And I think that is good. I don't think it's a good safeguard for the justice system. But I really don't think this goes far enough. And I hope they'll put an amendment to this bill. And the only way it's going to happen is if you contact them. Because first of all, why should the governor have the right to override the court system anyway? Was the governor the victim of this crime? No. Was the governor in the court case to hear the evidence and the testimony and how the victim was hurt because of whatever the criminal did? No, governor wasn't there for any of that. So you have a court of law that has either a judge or a jury, and they say, listen, this person has been tried and based on the evidence has been found guilty. So here is the punishment that will bring justice to the victim. And then you have the executive branch saying, I don't care about any of that. I'm just going to let the person go because I said so. That is, it never should have this power. I don't care if that's something that they've had. Well, they've had this power for years. Doesn't make it right. So I hope that they will get rid of this. We need to go back to the constitutional separation of powers.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back.
Yes, good old welcome back, Cotter. Welcome back to the Constitution, everybody. In the Constitution, it separates power to the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. It's the first three articles of the Constitution. And it gives each role of government saying, listen, this branch of government, you have a certain authority and a certain role, and don't take the authority or the role of the others. And that is where both the federal and state government has gone astray by having the other branches assume the roles and powers of the other two branches of government. You have, in this case, the executive branch is taking the authority which really belongs to the judicial branch by saying, I'm just going to override you. I don't care what you ruled, and I'm going to pardon whoever I want. You have also the executive branch taking the power of the legislative branch by issuing all of these mandates and executive orders that we've been talking about. The laws are to be made up by the legislative branch. You have the judicial branch taking the power of the executive branch by setting policy. And that is not anything that they were ever supposed to do. You have the judicial branch taking the power of the legislative branch and just deciding we're just going to create laws based on our rulings. Here's a little trivia question for you. In what year did the U.S. Congress legalize abortion? And the answer is, they never have. This is something that the United States Supreme Court, the judicial branch, just kind of made up in their ruling Roe versus Wade. But the legislative branch, which actually is supposed to make laws, never made this a law to make this legal. And we're seeing here a violation of the separation of powers. So the answer here is that the legislative branch needs to start exercising the proper authority given to it. We've been told for years that we have three separate and equal branches of government. That is incorrect. We have had a very gross lack of correct teaching in civics. They used to teach civics in school, and then they changed it to social studies. And they're even watering that down. But if we actually got back to teaching civics about the U.S. Constitution and the Kentucky Constitution, you will see that these two documents talk about three separate branches of government, not three equal branches. And if you look in both the federal and state constitutions, the article that deals with legislative power is immensely larger than the two articles that deal with judicial and executive power. Why is that? Well, the legislative branch is the branch of government closest to the people. It is easier to get a hold of your legislator than it is to get a hold of the governor or Supreme Court judges. So this is the branch of government closest to the people that represents the people's voice in government. And it's the branch that has the most power by design, but we have seen it keeps losing its power and is becoming increasingly impotent because we have the executive exercising the power of the legislative. And what's the legislative doing about it? They're letting it go ahead. That's what we're seeing federally and also on a state level. And also judicial, where they can just make up things and they're treated like laws. It is time for the legislative branch to have the final say, which is the way it was intended all along. 3 separate, but not 3 equal branches of government. Now, where do you think the Founding Fathers got this idea? Some people think, well, that's just the way that it is. That is incorrect. When America separated the powers of government, this was the first time in all of history that this had ever been done. Now, where do you think the Founding Fathers got the idea for how you should separate government? Well, they get that right from the Bible in Isaiah chapter 33 and verse number 22. Notice what the Bible says. It says, "For the Lord is our judge," judicial branch. "The Lord is our lawgiver," legislative branch. "The Lord is our king," executive branch. And here in Isaiah 33:22, we see a biblical example for the principle of the separation of powers into the 3 branches of government. And I just thought I'd throw that in extra for free as well. That's 3 free things. You would think I'm Bernie Sanders, just giving things away for free this week. Well, that's a little bit of our history, a little bit of why we've got so many problems, and what we need to do is we need to come back to Christ, the Constitution, and common sense. And I hope that you will come back next Friday for the next Patriot Point. And until next week, I'm Lee Wise. Stand strong and breathe free.